Hello everyone, today we are doing an update of our Wonders Guide videos. We have a basic one and then we have another one with the Rise and Fall expansion, but with Gathering Storm, once again, things have changed. New wonders are included and some of the old wonders have changed their mechanics for them to be applicable for things like diplomatic victory, for example. So we're going to see all of our wonders now in Civilization 6, and I'm going to tell you which ones are good and bad depending on, what they always had and what is new in Gathering Storm. So let's go ahead. The Alhambra has not changed. It's one of the few that actually remains pretty much the same since the beginning of the game. Obviously, every wonder that gives you another policy slot is always going to be a good wonder. That being said, among all of them, the Alhambra is probably the weakest one. Military policy slots are usually not so great, and also you need to be adjacent to an encampment. And in most games, you don't build so many encampments. Even if going for domination, you're going to be building a lot of them, maybe with the Zulus and a few other civilizations, but not so many of them. So I generally don't get the Alhambra before the AI gets it. But hey, if you're playing on lower difficulties and you can go for it, by all means, any wonder that gives you more policy slots is going to be a good one. This one just comes too late. This is a problem here. You have to wait all the way until rapid deployment and then the research lab. And also you need to have snow or snow hills. So if you're playing with Russia and you're going for a scientific victory, I mean, if you're playing with Russia, you're probably going to have more of this snow. So maybe in a few occasions this will actually be useful to speed up your scientific victory. But the truth is, most of the times it just comes too late, and it's even difficult to have the right terrain for it. Snow adjacent to a campus, it's not going to be so frequent. So in like 99% of your games you will be able to just ignore it. Angkor Wat, well, this one gives you +1 population in all current cities and +1 housing in all cities, which could be fine except for the fact that population is actually not a big issue in Civilization 6. Production is a big issue. Gold is pretty nice to have. Population, usually you don't need more than 10 population in every city, so okay, whatever. It's I mean, you need, what do you need? You need adjacent to an aqueduct. Yeah, that's another problem. You're not going to be building many aqueducts. In most games, actually, I don't build aqueducts at all, so I pretty much never go for Angkor Wat. I could rate this one very, very low in my list of priorities. Almost never go for it. Apadana gives you +2 envoys when you build a wonder, including Apadana in this city. This is a problem. If it was in every city, this bonus would be awesome. But because it's only in this city, you're not going to be having a lot of wonders in the same city usually. Best case scenario, you will have 2 or 3 wonders in the same city. So, and also this has to be adjacent to the city center, which is another limitation. So it appears like it could be really good, but it's actually mediocre. The Big Ben gives you another economic policy slot, which is much better than the military policy slot that you had with the Alhambra. So Big Ben, in my opinion, is always better than the Alhambra. Also, your gold in treasury is increased by 50%. At the moment you build it, so that's good, but it's only when you build it. So if you conquer it, you don't get that bonus. Keep that in mind. Must be built next to a river adjacent to a commercial hub district with a bank. If you have several rivers, you're almost always going to have commercial hubs on them, so this shouldn't be much of a limitation. It's a very good wonder. Just keep in mind that the AI will absolutely not ignore the Big Ben. So on higher difficulties, it's really hard to get it. If you're playing the peaceful type of game in which you want to get Big Ben on your own, try to rush it because it's not easy to get it before the AI. Bolshoi Theater Gives you 2 randomly chosen free civics when completed. This is not bad at all. A flat land adjacent to a theater square should be easy to get. The main thing here is this: you get more great writer points, more great musician points, another work of writing slot, another work of musing slot, and the tourism, that's not for you. But it's easy to build, and it gives you more great people points and more great work slots, and also a couple of civics. So the only problem I could say is that it's a bit expensive. Where is the cost here? 1240 production cost. It's not a cheap one. That's the only problem for it. It's still, if you're going for a cultural victory, I say it's usually worth it. If you're not going for a cultural victory, you can totally ignore it. Broadway. Broadway, we have a problem with Broadway here. It's really expensive. You can see here it's clearly more expensive than Bolshoi Theater. It usually comes a bit later. Usually. You get +3 great writer points, +3 great musician points. So yeah, those are a lot of points, but it comes kind of late in the game for it to be, for you to feel the impact so much. At this point, if you're going for a cultural victory, at this point you have so many theater squares in your empire and so many buildings on them that 3 points here and there are not going to be such a huge game changer. So that is a problem with Broadway. It takes too long to build and it comes too late, and so it doesn't make such a big impact. I only do it when I have pretty much nothing else to do, and of course going for a cultural win. But I could say it's a bit inferior to Bolshoi Theater, just because it's more expensive and comes a bit later. Casa de Contratación. So you get 3 governor promotions. All your cities not on your original capital's continent with governor gain +15% production and +15% faith and +15% gold. And it has to be next to a government plaza. This is actually not a bad wonder at all, especially because of the 3 promotions. This, okay, yeah, it's okay, it's fine, but you may not have so many cities outside your original continent unless you are playing for domination. So this is not always going to be so great, but the 3 governor promotions are pretty nice. And the government plaza, you usually get it on a good city, so it's usually a city that has enough production to actually go for Casa de Contratación. And the AI doesn't rush it so much, so in a lot of games you will see that you actually have time to build it, and it's not too bad. I would say I give it a C+. Chichen Itza, +2 culture to own rainforest style for this city, +1 production on rainforest style for this city. And it has to be built on rainforest. If you have a city with a lot of rainforest, in theory this sounds really nice, especially now that we can build lumber mills on rainforests. That obviously improves the value of Chichen Itza. In my opinion, the main problem is that you are still going to be chopping some of that rainforest normally. And also the AI goes for guilds pretty quick in the game, so it's not so easy to get it. If it was a bit easier to get and you needed so many rainforests for it to have real good value, I could say this could be a great wonder, but right now it's average, I would say. And most games, as I said, the AI will be too fast to get it. So yeah, most of the times you will just be chopping that rainforest. That's the sad truth. So it's not going to make much of an impact on your game. Colosseum, still the same, still great. This is one of the best wonders in the game. 2 of the following cultural loyalty pertinent amenities to each center within 6 tiles. This is awesome. You get loyalty also, you get culture as well, and especially amenities to each city center within 6 tiles. If you are smart and you're building in the middle of a bunch of cities, it can affect like 5 cities, sometimes even 6 cities if you are lucky enough. So it can really affect a bunch of cities and give you a bunch of amenities and culture. So it's really, really good. If you are fast to get an entertainment complex, you should be able to rush it before the AI gets it. Sometimes you can even peacefully build it even on Didi. And if you can, by all means try to do it. yeah, it's just such an excellent bonus, and it can affect so many cities. It's one of my favorites, maybe one of the top two or top three wonders. This is good for every type of victory. You always want to have more amenities. Having more loyalty, of course, it's fine, but if you're not going to war, it's not going to make much of an impact. And also, if you add to the great bonus of the amenities, if you add to that a couple of culture points per city, this can be 8, 10 culture points. If you get this around turn 120 or so, it's still early enough for this to make a moderate impact in your empire, especially if you're not going for cultural victory, so you will not have so many theater squares, so this is going to be even bigger for you. I think this is just great, and if you can get it, just get it. Colossus is okay, nothing big has changed from other versions of the game. Still, one trade route capacity and a trader unit built for free, so you can get that trade route going a bit faster. It's okay. It's not too expensive. Only 400 production, and the AI usually doesn't go for it so fast because the AI is not so good at building harbors very early in the game. So a lot of times you will be able to get it, and it's always nice to have another trade route. Cristo Redentor, same as before. Tourism output from relics and holy cities is not diminished by other civilizations who have research the alignment civics, and plus 100% tourism from seaside resorts across your civilization. All of this is obviously great if you are going for cultural victory. If you are not going for cultural victory, this is useless. So this is very good for cultural victory and completely useless for anything else. And it combines really well with Eiffel Tower, which incidentally is the next one on alphabetical order. Eiffel Tower, all tiles in your civilization gain plus 2 appeal. Why does it combine well with Cristo Redentor? Well, because Cristo Redentor gives you better seaside resorts. And you can build more seaside resorts if you have more appeal. So the Eiffel Tower combination with Cristo Redentor is very good for cultural victories. For anything else, I would never build any of these two wonders. I can't imagine how they can be useful for anything that is not a cultural victory. Estadio de Maracanã, plus 2 amenities in each city. This sounds really good, but the problem is it comes too late. It comes with professional sports that comes very, very late in the game. At this point, you're probably already winning, and so it's not going to make an impact. At this point, you already have something else that is helping you to deal with amenities. Or if you are not dealing well with amenities at this point in the game, you're probably already lost. So that is the problem. Plus 2 amenities in each city, that's great, sure. But at this point, you are probably already okay. It's just too late in the game. Forbidden City, plus 1 wildcard policy slot, which is absolutely awesome. It has built next to a city center. In previous versions of the game, this meant that the AI would have a lot of trouble building it, because they would improve all of the land next to their city centers, and then they would have nothing empty to build the Forbidden City. Right now, with Gathering Storm, that is not the case anymore. In many games, you will see the AI building Forbidden City around turn 140 or so, especially on daily difficulty. So if you play on high difficulties, it's difficult to get to Forbidden City before the AI. If you play on lower difficulties, by all means, go for it. This is just awesome. You only need to get to printing, which is a good technology anyway, because it gives you more tourism from great works of writing, and also you get plus 5 culture. Okay, that's fine. But this is the main thing. An extra wildcard policy slot is just too good. This is good for any type of victory. So yeah. If you can, by all means, build it. This is one of the best, together with the Colosseum, probably. Golden Gate Bridge. Land units can cross without needing to embark, act as modern road, and create modern roads, inland tiles on either end. And also the city gets more amenities, and all tiles in the city plus 4 appeal, plus 100% tourism from improvements, and national parks in this city. So all of this is affecting only one city. That's why it's not so great. If it was affecting more cities, it would be awesome, but affecting only one city, that is really not so great. and trade routes traveling through it can multiply the gold, and so on and so forth. You need a coastal tile that where you can actually build a bridge, so sort of a canal, let's say, like one coastal tile between two pieces of land. And you're probably not going to use the road so much, and also it comes really late with combustion, and also the AI usually tries to build it. So for all of these reasons, it's actually not so good, but especially because, I mean, even if let's say you try to rush it, right, to get Golden Gate before the AI, it doesn't really matter because this will only affect one city. If that city doesn't have, let's say, the 4 tiles it needs for a national park, then what's the point? I mean, 3 amenities? At this point in the game, as I said before, it's too late. You're probably already okay with amenities if you are on the path to victory. So, yeah, not so awesome. The +4 appeal should help you get the national park, but you need 4 empty tiles in that specific shape that you need to build a national park. And at this point, you will not have so many empty tiles. It's really late in the game. And it's also super expensive, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 1620, as expensive as Broadway. So, again, very expensive. There are many of these wonders that are good for cultural victories that sound really good, but when you start to count how late they arrive in the game and how expensive they are, you realize that they're actually not so good. The Great Bath. Okay, first of all, let me point out one thing. If you're playing on daily difficulty, just forget about this wonder. The AI will build it super fast, like super fast. They get the Great Bath usually even before Stonehenge, and you know, they were already getting Stonehenge super quick. So this is just ridiculous. Like sometimes I think I saw the AI building the Great Bath on Diddy on turn like 17 or 18, some ridiculous stuff like that. I only got it once. I think the AI just spawned, like none of the AI leaders had any good floodplains or something like that, and that's the only reason why I could build it. But yeah, if you're playing on lower difficulties, well, the floodplains tiles along the river containing the Great Bath are now immune to flood damage. So this is like a dam, but it comes very early in the game, so it comes a lot earlier than a proper dam. And that's why it's a nice advantage if you have a lot of floodplains. That being said, well, it only works really on lower difficulties. If you have a lot of floodplains and you're playing on a low difficulty, let's say up to King or so, maybe you want to try to get it, because yeah, sure, it's going to give you a good dam a lot earlier than you can actually get dams, so it's nice. Oh, also one amenity from entertainment, which so early in the game actually does make an impact. Great library, same as before, receive boost to all ancient and classical era technologies, all of them, so yeah, that's not too bad. Also receive a random tech boost after another player recruits a great scientist. This is an additional boost they gave to the Great Library because it was a rather weak wonder before, and with these new boosts, it's actually a bit better now. So now it's actually kind of worth it, to be honest. If you have good land for it, you might even get it before the AI if you prioritize it. For example, if you're going for scientific victory. I actually managed to get the Great Library on Diddy now a couple of times, and it's not too bad. I would say if you're going for a scientific victory, it's actually pretty decent. You might want to try to get it. If you're not going for scientific victory, forget about it. Well, maybe domination, because in domination it's also good to get science. But still, I wouldn't be too concerned about it unless going for scientific victory. Great Lighthouse, +1 movement for all naval units. If you're playing an archipelago map, this can be nice. This can be really nice. If you're not playing an archipelago map, don't waste your time on this. That's the short version. Basically, you can probably build it almost every time. As I said before, with the Colossus, the AI will not build harbors very quickly, so it usually gives you some time for these early harbor wonders, harbor adjacent wonders. So you can probably build it, but if you're not in an archipelago map, it's not worth it. If you're on an archipelago map, sure, go ahead. Great Zimbabwe, +1 trade route capacity, and also your trade routes from the city get +2 gold for every bonus resource within 3 tiles of the city and in the city territory, and so on and so forth. So you can get, if you move all of your trade routes to the city that has the Great Zimbabwe, those trade routes are going to be awesome. You can get a lot of extra gold, like a ridiculous amount of gold just for having this. The requirements are pretty tough. Adjacent to a commercial hub district with a market and adjacent to cattle, which is a very specific thing to have adjacent to a commercial hub. Or between the Great Zimbabwe tile and the commercial hub. So yeah, it's 2 adjacencies with 1 specific resource that make it a little bit harder to build. That being said, the AI is not ignoring Great Zimbabwe anymore. In the base game, the AI ignores the Great Zimbabwe and you can always get it, and it is a nice amount of gold. But now with Gathering Storm, it's not so easy to get. That is a problem, really. It's not very specific for any type of victories. So if you're rushing a type of victory, you are not going to go for it. And so the AI will usually get it before you do. But if you have the time, it can be really nice, but you have to play with it, okay? You have to send all of your traders to the city that has the Great Zimbabwe to really turn this +2 into a lot of gold. Hagia Sophia is great for religious victories and nothing else. Missionaries and apostles can spread religion 1 extra time. Of course, if you are going for a religious victory, this is excellent. If you are not going for a religious victory, it's 100% useless. So probably the most important wonder for religious victories is Hagia Sophia. This is the best bonus you can get for a religious victory. And it's 100% useless for everything else. Hanging Gardens increase growth by 15% in all cities. As I said before, population, not such a big issue in Civilization 6. So, it's not bad, but I wouldn't waste my time on it. Hermitage. Hermitage will not give you anything specific, as you can see there. It just gives you great artist points and great works of art slots. And I wouldn't waste 1450 production on something that will only give me 3 great artist points per turn. It's just not enough to justify so much production. So this is one of the worst wonders in the game. I pretty much never go for it. Huiteocali can be very nice if you have the right terrain. +1 amenity from entertainment for each lake tile within 1 tile of Huiteocali. So if you have a big lake, you can put Huiteocali in such a way that it has, let's say, I don't know, 4 lake tiles adjacent to it, and that will give you 4 amenities for this wonder, and that can be awesome. And also +1 food and +1 production for each lake tile in your empire. Again, if you have a lot of lake tiles, that is also great. But if you don't have a lot of lake tiles, and especially 1 big lake where you can really use these extra amenities, it's not going to be great. So it's very terrain dependent. And also it requires a technology, military tactics. This is a technology that gives you the spearmen, no, not the spearmen, the ones after those, the pikemen. And the pikemen are really mediocre units. I pretty much never use pikemen, so I pretty much never rush this technology. And so that is the problem with Huiteocali. You have to, the AI will try to get it, so you have to be more or less fast to this technology if you want to actually get this wonder. So I think it's only justified if you have a really, really large lake in your empire, in a city with good enough production to actually get it fast. Jebel Barkal, it gives you 6 iron per turn, which is a very nice amount of iron, and +4 faith, to all your cities are within 6 tiles. So it's a nice amount of faith, which could be nice for religious victories. The problem with that is that the AI usually goes for Jebel Barkal pretty fast, and it comes early in the game with iron working, so it's very difficult to rush all of this to get this wonder before the AI gets it, unless of course they do not have desert hills, which could totally happen. A lot of times the AI has very few desert tiles next to them, especially if, let's say, Mali is not in the game. Some civilizations will spawn with more desert next to them. But if none of those civilizations are actually playing the game, the AI might not have desert hills at all, or almost at all. And in those situations, you can actually build Jebel Barkal, and it's pretty nice, especially if you're going for religious victory. But even if you're not, 6 iron is already pretty nice. You can always sell it if you're not going for wars, or use it if you're going for wars. And the +4 faith, if you're going for war, you can use it for buying units. If you're going for cultural victories, you can use it for rock bands and naturalists that give you natural parks. So it's not too bad. It's not too bad at all. The only problem is trying to get it fast, especially if Mali is in the game, or one of those civilizations that spawn next to desert. They will get it pretty fast. Kilwa Kisiwani. Sorry about the pronunciation. I'm probably butchering this name. +3 envoys when built. And when you are the suzerain of a city-state, this city receives a +15% boost to the type bonuses provided by that city-state. Which, okay, you're not going to be suzerain of a bunch of cities throughout the game. Maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 if you are going for diplomatic victory. So it's not so awesome. Yeah, if you're suzerain of a bunch of them, then you get more. The main problem with Kilwa Kisiwani is, again, the AI will almost certainly get it before you do. On the difficulty, you will see this. You will see the AI building crossbows very early, like on turn 60 or 70 or 80 tops. So they get machinery very quickly, and you can build this wonder almost anywhere. And this combination means that the AI on daily difficulty especially will get this wonder almost every time before you have even a slight chance to get it. Otherwise, it could be good. It's not so expensive. 3 envoys is always nice. And some boost, again, if you're going for, let's say, diplomacy, this could be pretty big. But if you're not going for diplomatic victories, then, I mean, why would you rush this? You know, you have to make a very good rush, and even then you might lose it. But if you're playing in lower difficulties and you're going for diplomatic victory, then by all means go and get Kilwa Kisiwani. Kotoku Inn, plus 20% faith in this city, grants 4 warrior monks. Warrior monks are kind of rubbish. So that is the main problem here. This unit is just terrible. It's really bad. I pretty much never use it. Must be built adjacent to a holy site with a temple and so on and so forth. So 20% faith in this city. If you're going for religious victory, that sounds more or less okay. But once again, it might happen that the AI gets to this before you do. If you're going for religious victory, you are probably rushing divine right because you want to get theocracy. So you might get a chance at getting this before the AI does. And if you have one city that is producing a lot of faith, then the 20% will be relevant. So yeah, it's not a completely awful wonder if you are going for religious victory. But for other things, it's completely useless, especially because these warrior monks are no good. Machu Picchu. Mountain tiles provide a standard adjacency bonus to commercial hub, theater square, and industrial zone districts in all cities. So the mountains are already giving you adjacency to campuses and holy sites, but this wonder means that they will give adjacency to all the other districts as well. It has to be built on a mountain that does not contain a volcano, of course. And so if you have a lot of mountains, this is good, and if you don't have a lot of mountains, this is useless. So that's it. That's again, it depends on your terrain. Just like Hueteocali needs you to have a good lake, this one needs you to have a lot of mountains. And also, if the Inca are in the game, forget about it. The Inca will get Machu Picchu immediately because they always have a lot of mountains, and engineering is a technology that the AI will get very quickly. So it's going to be hard to get it. And if there are no Incas, but maybe someone else spawned really close to a bunch of mountains, they're also going to get this wonder before you do, especially on high difficulties. Otherwise, if you can get it, then it's just terrain dependent. Just only go for something like this if you have like a lot, but really a lot of mountains. If you only have a few mountains, you will by default just use them for campuses. So there is no point in trying to go for this. Mahabodhi Temple. Okay, this is a new thing from Mahabodhi Temple. 2 diplomatic victory points. Also 2 apostles when built. And it also gives you a little bit of faith. So this was only for religious victories, but now it's also good for diplomatic victories. The problem is the AI is very fast at these religious things. They always build a lot of holy sites very early in the game, so they will get the temple very quickly, and they will probably get the Mahabodhi temple before you do. Especially because if you are going for diplomatic victories, you are not going to be rushing holy sites. So it's not going to be easy to get the Mahabodhi temple. So that is a shame, because getting these 2 diplomatic victory points can really speed up your diplomatic win. But it's just tough. It's just tough. If you know from, let's say, turn 1, okay, you are just starting the game, and you know for sure you are just trying to go for religious victories. For a diplomatic victory. Then okay, try to build 1 holy site if you have the time. Somehow go and get theology on the way in your social development. But the problem is you will want to, if you go for diplomatic victories, you will want to go this path to Merchant Republic, and theocracy is all the way down here, and there are a bunch of civics that do not share these 2 paths. You see. So if you want to go here for a peaceful victory, which is the usual stuff you do for diplomatic victories and peaceful victories, you will not go quickly for theocracy, and so you will not go quickly for things like Otoku-in or the temple that requires or for theology that is required for the Mahabodhi temple, which is here. Sorry, not theocracy, just theology. But again, if you go for Merchant Republic, you can see here theology is not on the way, so you have to deviate to get there. That is another problem. But if you know from turn 1 that you are going for diplomatic victories, and you want to try to do it as quickly as possible, maybe you want to design a strategy around getting the Mahabodhi temple, trying to use this maybe for more culture, so this deviation is actually not so bad. Something like that, okay? It would be part of a very specific plan just to get a diplomatic victory very, very quickly. It would be an interesting type of game, but also a very unusual type of game. Yeah, so something to consider. Most of the times you will not get it. The mausoleum is very nice. Gives you +1 science, faith, and culture on all coast tiles for this city. Okay, maybe you have like 4 or 5 of those, and it's 5 science and 5 culture and 5 faith. So it's a little bit of everything. But more important, great engineers have an additional charge, and this is very nice. This is very nice because for scientific victories especially, the charges of the great engineers can give you very quick space project production at the end of the game. And so if you have one of those great engineers that give you 1500 production for space projects just once, suddenly that guy will give you that same huge boost twice, and that is a big difference. That can be a difference of like 5 turns or maybe even 10 turns in your victory date. So quite a relevant change, especially when there is a race. And if you are playing Archipelago, of course, this could be just a lot of tiles, so it's also nice. Defensive tactics, it comes around mid-game, not so late, not too early, but not so late either. And adjacent to a harbor, so again, the AI is not so good at placing the harbors, so you will probably have a chance to build the mausoleum. Especially, as I said, for scientific victories, pretty good. Meenakshi Temple, it gives you 2 gurus. Gurus are cheaper to purchase. Religious units adjacent to gurus receive +5 religious strength in theological combat. So all of this stuff is very good if you're going for religious victory, of course. Problem is, once again, the AI will probably get civil service before you do. They will have a bunch of holy sites, and it's very, very difficult to get the Meenakshi Temple before the AI does. If you can get it, by all means, if you're going for religious victory, go for it. This is pretty good, especially the extra combat strength. So cool, and cheaper gurus. I mean, yeah, all of this is excellent for religious victory, because we are going to be having a lot of theological combat. So all of this is good for religious victories. It's just a hard wonder to get. Mont Saint Michel. All apostles you create gain the martyr ability in addition to second ability you choose normally. Okay, so on first view, this seems awful. This is like sounds like one of the worst wonders in the whole game. If you're going for religious victory, you don't want to lose the religious combat. So you don't want to use the martyr ability, because the martyr ability only gives you a relic if you lose a combat, or if the apostle dies in theological combat. And you definitely do not want your apostles to die in theological combat if you're going for religious victory. The relic from the martyr ability can give you tourism if you're going for a cultural victory. I think there is a way to use relics for cultural victories with, I think it was Poland. I don't remember right now. There is one civilization, I think it was Poland, that lets you win an early cultural victory with relics. But again, you need to lose an apostle in theological combat. Apostles take a while to appear in the game, and then you need the AI to get to apostles and to beat you in theological combat. It feels like such a huge effort just to get the relic when you can get tourism through many other ways. So yeah, I couldn't spend all of this stuff plus the production just to get a relic, you know what I mean? And also you have to get divine right, and if you're going for cultural victories, you're probably not going this way. So it just looks awful. That being said, here is the but of everything I just said. Okay, here's the thing that you have to consider. If Mont Saint Michel is automatically giving you the martyr ability, and this is in addition to the other ability that you choose normally, this means that the ability you choose normally will never have martyr as one of the options. And martyr is one that you never want when you're going for the religious win. So not having it here means that you will always be able to choose another one. You'll have higher chances, basically, of getting a useful one to pick for your apostle. So that is the only upside of Mont Saint Michel. It's still not enough of an upside to actually build it peacefully, but if you conquer it when you are going for a religious victory, then it's not so terrible because of that particular if that I just said. But yeah, don't self-build it. Don't build it peacefully. It doesn't make any sense. Oracle. Patronage of great people costs 25% less faith. District in the city provide +2 great person points of their type. Yeah, more great people points is always a good thing to have, especially if you're going for cultural victories. It has to be built on hills. That's not great because hills usually are good for mines. But still, it's an okay wonder. Comes a bit early in the game, so it's tough to beat the AI to it. But it's not too bad. Having more great people is not too bad. If you're going for cultural victories, especially, or even scientific victories. I could never build the Oracle if I was going for domination, but anyway, in domination you don't usually build wonders in general. You just conquer the wonders. But I could also not get the Oracle if I was going for diplomatic victory or religious victory. These 2 great people points are not going to be so relevant there. So if you're going for culture or if you're going for science, this can be pretty nice, but it's going to be tough to get it before the AI. You really, really have to rush it if you want it. And during the early game, you probably want to rush other things. So it's not always doable. Just that's the problem with the Oracle. It's not always doable. Orsagas plus 100% diplomatic favor per turn from starting a turn as suzerain of a city-state. So, if you're going for diplomatic victories, you always will be suzerain of a couple of city-states at the very least. And having plus 100% diplomatic favor is very good if you're going for diplomatic victory. So this is a priority for you in those diplomatic victory games. Okay, it's a priority. You try to get sanitation early and try to build it, because if the AI gets Orsagas on Didi, you are going to be losing a lot of votes, and that's going to delay your win quite a lot. So try to prioritize it when you're going for diplomatic victories. If you are not going for diplomatic victories, you can 100% ignore this wonder. It's not useful for anything else. You don't need it to stop the AI from winning a diplomatic victory. They are very, very bad at winning diplomatic victories. So if you're not going for a diplomatic victory yourself, ignore it. If you are going for a diplomatic victory, then prioritize it. Okay, so it's very specialized, but very good for that particular specialization. Oxford University, plus 20% science in the city, and 2 randomly chosen free technologies when completed. Must be, well, okay. Some requirements here, but not so difficult. Planes adjacent to campus. I mean, come on. If you're going for scientific victory, this is pretty good, so you should try to get it. If you try to prioritize it, you should be always able to get it before the AI. So try to go for it. If you're not going for science, I would not mind. As I said before, in domination, sure, you want science when you're going for domination, but you can conquer this, just like you can conquer enemy campuses. So it shouldn't be a problem. And for anything else, you don't need the extra science, so don't worry about it too much. Also some great scientist points per turn, which is nice because it comes around mid-game, so not so late that this is completely irrelevant. Yeah, good one for scientific victories. Panama Canal is just a fun thing that they added to the game, but as fun as it is completely 100% useless. That's it. I'm not even going to waste my time reading this. If you want to have fun with a large canal and make a screenshot of it and upload it to Reddit or something like that, then go ahead and do it. But when we are talking about strategy, optimal strategies and so on, this is just, I would never, ever, ever even think for a second about building the Panama Canal. Petra is very good. Plus 2 food, plus 2 gold, and plus 1 production on all desert tiles for this city, which are not floodplains. This is especially good if you have a lot of desert hills. Desert hills with this bonus and the mine on them become excellent tiles. Just desert, not so good, but desert hills with Petra are excellent. So if you have a city with 4 desert hills, for example, that city is going to be a very good candidate to be a Petra city. 4 or 5, that's just going to be an excellent city if it has Petra. You need mathematics, but you can rush this. It's a good technology anyway, so it's never a bad idea to rush it. You can usually boost it as well. And the AI is no longer super fast at building Petra. I've seen a lot of games, even on daily difficulty, in which I could build Petra without going super crazy at it. So yeah, if you see a terrain where you have 4 or 5 desert hills, get a city somewhere there and go for Petra as quickly as possible, because that city can be super strong with this bonus on desert hills. Potala Palace is really, it was already super good with the diplomatic policy slot, and now they gave it something else, diplomatic victory point. So it's just an excellent wonder, one of the top 5 probably. If you're going for diplomatic victories, of course this is even better. But even if it's just for the diplomatic policy slot, that's already very good. We have now many more diplomatic policies that are actually very useful for the game. So these diplomatic policies, I used to think that they were much weaker than the economic ones, but in Gathering Storm they're pretty much just as good. So Potala Palace is an excellent wonder because this requirement is not so easy to get. It's not super difficult, but it's also not so easy. You can usually build Potala Palace before the AI if you rush astronomy, which is a technology that is also very easy to boost. You just need a university adjacent to a mountain to boost it, which is a fairly easy thing to do. So yeah, I recommend if you can go for it, yeah, go for it. The pyramids grants a free builder, and also all builders can build one extra improvement. Giving one extra charge to every builder you get in the game is pretty nice, especially because this wonder comes very early in the game with masonry. So that is going to be a bunch of builders throughout the game that will have one extra charge. So that's a lot of free charges, and it's a fairly decent wonder. It's difficult to get because if you have AIs that spawn next to desert, they will always get it before you do. But if you see that you are the one spawning next to desert, if you are already like Mali or one of those, Nubia, I guess, you can probably get it before the AI, and it's not too bad. It's a very more than decent wonder, I would say. Ruhr Valley is excellent for scientific victories. 20% production in the city, +1 production for each mining quarry. So you have a super production city, and super production cities are particularly good for scientific victories to get all of those space projects a lot faster. It can really make a difference in speed if you are going for scientific victories. For other type of victories, it's not going to make such a huge difference, because one super productive city is not going to make such a huge impact. For example, for domination, if you have a bunch of average or good production cities, that's going to be enough to get a bunch of units. You don't need to build them all in just one city. Also, that one city might be very far away from the war zone, from the cities that you are conquering right now. So it's better to have your production spread throughout the empire if you're going for domination. So this production in just one city is pretty strong for scientific victories, and not so strong for almost anything else. St. Basil's Cathedral, +1% religious tourism from the city. Religious tourism, so that's relics and stuff, not so great. +1 food, +1 production, +1 culture on all tundra tiles for this city. If you have a bunch of tundra tiles in this city, which might happen if you're playing with Russia, then it could be nice. It could be really nice. Otherwise, it won't be so nice, because that touristic bonus is only for like relics and things like that. Also, Reformed Church. Again, we are talking about policies that you are not going to be prioritizing if you are going for cultural victories. So I could only do this if I was playing with Russia and I had a city with a bunch of tundra tiles. So this can really make an impact. Otherwise, I would just forget about it. Statue of Liberty with Rise and Fall. I mentioned in the Rise and Fall Wonders guide that this was the worst wonder in the game. And it's still the worst wonder in the game, except if you are going for diplomatic victory. Now with Gathering Storm, they gave it a huge boost, 4 diplomatic victory points. That is a lot of diplomatic victory points, a lot. So if you are going for the diplomatic victory, you should absolutely prioritize civil engineering, and then build the wonder, which you should always be able to get because it needs a harbor. We already mentioned before, the AI is not very good at building wonders that are next to the harbor. They take quite some time to build those wonders. So if you prioritize it, you should always be able to get it before the AI. And if you're going for diplomatic victory, you should absolutely rush it. If you are not going for diplomatic victory, this is still completely useless, and this is still a super awful wonder, and the AI will still not beat you. Even if they get the Statue of Liberty, they will still not win diplomatic victory before you win anything else. So if you're not going for diplomatic victory, it's still useless. If you're going for diplomatic victory, you totally have to rush it. So kind of the same situation as Orsagas. Orsagas and Statue of Liberty are the two main wonders you have to rush for diplomatic victories, but also you have to completely ignore them if you're going for anything else. Stonehenge has not changed. It gives you the religion early on, but the problem is on daily difficulty you cannot rely on this. The AI will almost always beat you to Stonehenge, and if you are relying on it, you will not get your religion through any other means because you will have lost too much production on Stonehenge. So it's just not reliable enough. If you could always get it by rushing it, sure, go ahead and get your religion this way. But it's very, very difficult to actually rush it so fast that you get it before the AI on DT difficulty. On lower difficulties, it can be an easy way to get your religion. But I just ignore it because I always play on DT. Sydney Opera House comes too late. It gives you a bunch of culture and great musician points. 5 great musician points, which is a lot of great musician points. But it comes so late in the game, and it's so expensive, like super expensive, that you are going to be building it very, very late, like on turn 240 or something like that, which is just ridiculous. And so it's not really going to make an impact. It's a shame because it's a lot of culture and a lot of great musician points, but it's just too late and it's just too expensive. You will be winning through other means. If you're going for a cultural victory, you will be, by the time Sydney Opera House is done, you will be just a few turns away from victory anyway, so you will not care about it. Taj Mahal, won a score from historic moments earned after this wonder is complete, if that moment is usually worth 2 or more. This is, even with this limitation, you are still going to get a bunch of extra era score points. If you are on a good game, if mid-game you see that the game is going really, really well, you can actually build it mid-game. And then what you can do is that late game, when you are starting to get close to your victory, you can basically get one golden age after another. With this guy, especially if you're going for, let's say, cultural victory or things like that, what I do a lot of times is that I build the Taj Mahal, and then the last 80 turns or so I spend on a golden age, because I get 2 golden ages in a row after I build it. And that's very nice, getting 2 golden ages in a row. It's almost impossible to do without the Taj Mahal. So I would say if you are doing really well in the mid game and you are going for a cultural victory, which means you will get humanism fairly quickly, then you can build it. It's okay. It's a more than decent wonder. Temple of Artemis. Each camp past your implantation improvement within 4 tiles of this wonder provides +1 amenity. This is not much, but this wonder is super cheap. It comes very early in the game, so usually the AI will build it before you do, but it must be adjacent to a camp improvement. Sometimes the AI simply does not have any camps close to their early cities, which means sometimes you can actually build the Temple of Artemis even on Diri. I have built the Temple of Artemis on Diri at least on 2 or 3 different games. It can happen. It's not the usual, but it can happen. And if the AI doesn't have a lot of camps, it probably means that you have a bunch of them. So if you have a spot that has, let's say, 4 camps within 4 tiles, this will be 4 amenity points very, very early in the game. So they will make a very relevant impact in the game. So if you see that it's turn 30 or turn 40 and the AI has not built the Temple of Artemis yet, you might want to give it a shot, especially if you are going for a peaceful game. Terracotta Army. So all current units gain a promotion level. Okay. If you have a bunch of units already, that's nice. And all archaeologists from the owner may enter foreign lines without open borders. And okay, that's fine, I guess. You can usually buy open borders, so this is not a big deal. The AI will sell you open borders for a very cheap price, so that this is irrelevant. All current units gain a promotion level. What is the problem with this idea? The problem with this idea is that it is only useful if you're going for domination and you have a bunch of units. Then you gain a bunch of promotions. But if you're going for domination, you're probably not building wonders. You are conquering wonders. So that is the contradiction, the inherent contradiction of Terracotta Army. is a wonder that is good to build if you are going for the type of victory in which you do not build wonders. So that's the problem there. I mean, it comes early also, and at this point, if you're going for domination, at this point, you are not rushing wonders so early in the game. You're rushing units. You are conquering. You are expanding like crazy. So you're pretty much never going to build it, and this bonus is a one-time only. So when you conquer Terracotta Army, you don't get it, unfortunately. So that's the problem with it. It seems like a decent idea, but it's actually a contradiction on its own. University of Sankor, other civilizations trade routes to the city provide +1 science and +1 gold for them, and +2 science for every trade route to the city. So you get a bunch of science if you put it in a city that is receiving a lot of trade routes. You need to check your trade route report that will be here to make sure you build it in an actually useful city. Domestic trade routes give an additional +1 faith, which, okay, I mean, late in the game you are not going to be having a lot of internal trade routes. You only use domestic trade routes normally very early in the game to grow your early cities, and that's it. So this is actually not so important. Must be built on the desert or desert hills adjacent to a campus. This is a university. This is if it happens that you have a city with a good desert tile to build the University of Sankor that is also receiving a lot of trade routes from your enemies, sure, you can get a lot of science in that city. Maybe if it's receiving, I don't know, 7 trade routes, this will mean 14 science points for you per turn, every turn, just for building this. It's relevant. If you had 140 per turn, that will be a 10% increase. So yeah, I like it, but it has to be a very, very specific situation. I need a city that is receiving a lot of trade routes from the enemy, and also that city needs to have a good desert tile, which is another requirement. So it's very rare that you actually have a good city for it. If you have it, it's not too bad, but you need a lot of coincidences happening for this to be useful. And finally, the Venetian Arsenal, which gives you a second naval unit each time you train one naval unit. If you're going for domination in a map with, you know, small continents, archipelago or something like that, then this can be very, very good. If you are not building a lot of naval units, it's going to be completely useless. So it really depends on the situation. Okay, if you're going for domination and the map is not Pangea or something like that, then yeah, go ahead and build it, because having double naval units, I mean, this comes also around mid to late game, but this means also your late game navy will be a lot larger, and the late game navy can be very strong. You start to get all of those submarines and the battleships. Those late game naval units are very, very strong. So if you have 2 of them each time you produce 1, that can make quite a big difference. And also a couple of great engineering points, which I guess is fine. It has very specific requirements: coastal tile but adjacent to an industrial zone. This is very, very specific. The AI will almost never have an industrial zone next to a coastal tile, so you can almost always build this wonder before the AI. And as I said before, if you are going for domination in a map with a lot of sea, it can be very, very strong, and your late game will be a lot faster if you have the Venetian Arsenal built. So that is all for this video. I hope you have a better understanding now of which wonders you should build on each occasion. If you want a specific guide for a specific topic, please say it in the comments. And please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this game if you want more guides on strategic games. Thank you very much for watching.